Many people will tell you that, there's a common phrase that life is all about taking risks. And that, nothing incredible ever happens to those who just sit back and wait for something great to come to them. You have to get up and go after what you want. I would carefully amend that statement to say that life is all about taking calculated risks. We look at options set before us and make decisions based on that information. All the information that surrounds the topics even. We don't just blindfold ourselves and pick something at random. That would make no sense. We take time to study the choices. We talk to other people about similar choices that they've made. How did it work out for them? And then we also can pray about the decisions that are before us, obviously. And finally, when we have a good hope of success, we pick the option that we think will have the best result. That's usually the process. But unfortunately, that's not always possible with every decision. Sometimes we don't know anything about the choices in front of us. Sometimes we can't ask anybody really for help because nobody else has even had this option in front of them. There are some times that we just can't see clearly the next step no matter what we're doing. And in those cases, we often rely on the guidance of some kind of an authority. And for most of our life, especially as kids, our authority was our parents, who since the dawn of time have been getting children to do anything really with the infamous line, "Because I told you to," which speaks so deeply actually to the reality that every child knows in their heart, even without having it being explicitly said, that my parents love me. They only want what's good for me. And so whatever they're telling me to do must be good for me too, so I'll do it. And it's pretty good authority that, parents have over that in that situation. In fact, there's really only one higher authority in the entire history of the world. And we see examples of this authority in our readings today, starting with our first reading, where God is asking Abram to take a pretty large leap of faith. He's the authority, the highest authority that there's been. And when he asks him to leave behind his home, to the people and life that he knew, everything that he once thought was safe, he asks him to leave it behind. And so he did. But he did it on the authority of the one who was telling him. And with it coming from God, there's no higher authority. This is a sign, not only of the incredible faith that Abram had in God, but then also the deeply personal relationship required that he had to have in order to know that God's only goal for him was to provide for and guide Abram on the way to eternal happiness. He must have known that no matter where he went or what he did, God would be with him to protect him because of God's faithfulness to him and God's faithfulness to his promise that he made to him. This is the same authority that Christ has when we see how, he sometimes is even asking us to take a leap of faith. He asks his apostles to take a leap of faith. It's essential. And we trust in God because we're united to Christ in our baptism, in the Eucharist. But still, sometimes the teachings can be hard, and times in our life can be dark and difficult. So at times God grants us then the grace of some kind of proof. Take the gospel, for example, when Jesus knew that the crucifixion would shake the faith of the apostles. He knew that. That in all the time that they spent together, they still needed a way to know that this was always the plan of redemption. That without a doubt, Jesus was the Son of God, and his death was no accident. So God allowed Peter, James, and John to go up the mountain in order to see Christ in all his glory, transfigured before him, to hear the words of the Father ringing in their ears that this is my beloved Son, listen to him. The voice of God is terrifying. It takes Christ to come and touch them to alleviate that, to say, don't be afraid. This is the plan. They were then supposed to guide the rest of the apostles, and ultimately all the disciples, including us today, to be able to know with certainty the glorious reality of our Lord's divinity, so that we can bear through even the darkest days, if not just Lent, but of our life, by holding on to the image of our Lord's divinity fully on display, proving his ultimate authority, which then gives validity to every one of his teachings, and ultimately the resurrection as well. And so we take this time at Mass today to be with our Lord on that mountain, to see him miraculously before our eyes, and trust that he will be with us, guiding us onto whatever he has planned for us next.